One. And welcome back to the latest, not the new, the latest, it is new, I guess, episode of the Fit Affiliate podcast. I was thinking new because I was just talking about new headset, but there you go. Joined in my co host seat with the ever wonderful Tony. See, I gave you a good build up this week.
We got something out there. I mean, it's a new episode, so you're not wrong. Although it is
Yeah,
always fun when you do trip up on the intro, so I'll
haven't
take it.
done that for a while, but I just slid that one in there. Um, Today, a little bit of a spicy topic, I guess, and might generate some conversation out in the interwebs. There was a post done by a pretty prominent affiliate owner, Craig Howard, not too long ago, talking about opening an affiliate is a path of legacy, and there's hashtag no exit strategy.
Hmm.
Um, but I thought it'd be interesting for us to dig into today that why affiliate owners should have an exit strategy and why it's not a bad thing. And I know that when we talk to affiliate owners about having an exit strategy, straight away they go straight to level 10, freak out and go, I don't want to sell. I never want to sell. I don't want to get out of it. I'm not closing my gym. I'm always going to have this. Calm the farm, Betty. Let's just talk through this calmly, how it's not a bad thing to have an exit strategy. We're not saying pull the cord. We're just saying, let's look at the big picture.
Well,
So
I
I thought it
think you
would be worth us
said
discussing
it.
that alternate view today. Sorry?
I think you just kind of said it there. So I think we got a minute and 43-second long podcast episode, and there's
Perfect.
not much else to say. Um, there was another topic though. What was the other topic?
Well, I guess leading into that is, intention versus reaction. So we did
Hmm.
a post about that very recently in regard to are you intentional or are you being reactive? And I guess that overlays into, particularly for affiliate owners, distraction coming just off the games. And, it's just another thing that means people take their eyes off their business maybe for a week and put it elsewhere. So lots of little hot spicy numbers today. It's like a little chili hot box.
All right. Well, first of all, this is Craig should be on this podcast, but we'll get him on here in the next one or two. But um, I think to his point of that, I know exactly where he was coming from when he said it, and he's not entirely wrong in where he was going for it. I think one thing before I jump into reaction versus intention versus exit strategy, or in combination of, is that I think the point behind that statement is that we live in a time now, particularly not so much in the affiliate owner space, but kind of the internet, the social landscape in general, where for whatever reason we want things to be easy, right? And or easier. And especially, I mean, not for nothing, like the amount of apps, software, tech, et cetera, that exists out there to do just that. I think we're all being systematically trained day by day to like make things easier. And there's probably a collective belief, although I haven't necessarily seen it myself personally, where people just maybe they want to just own an affiliate and they want it to be easy. I think that there's probably some truth to that, but I think for most people, they're attracted to the nobility and the opportunity of the affiliate more so than they're attracted to the opportunity of the affiliate.
Mm,
And to Craig's point, any business is a legacy business, right? I mean, because it has to be that way. And one of the things that's important and vital about that statement is that um, hashtag no exit strategy is a little bit of a problem only in that the moment you decide to go into business, any business, not just on an affiliate, you are demonstrating and determining that this thing is now bigger than you because it's a business. And now it's about the business, it's not about you. And so
mm,
with the intention of going into something, you know, as a family business, as a legacy business, stuff like that, that still means that it's bigger than you. Right. And so
mm,
what where he was going with it, I think I agree with, but if you are building this to be a family business, you're probably going to want to pass it on to the next generation, next generation, the next generation as efficient as possible. In order to do
mm.
that, it's the exact same process as you would do if you were going to exit it, because whether or not you're exiting it and your family's taking it over, or a stranger's taking it over, it's really the same process, right? And so
mm,
that's kind of a disclaimer in the whole thing. But that's we'll probably circle back on that one. So he's not wrong. So Greg, if I'm
mm,
ruffling your feathers, then come on, we can debate it. But you're probably right. Just a little bit of a clarification there. Um,
mm,
but the thing that you did bring up that I do think is worth talking about, which is, we'll call it our proprietary system, but really our proprietary focus, which is we believe that all businesses can be saved, and we've experienced this by simply saving business owners from distraction. This is not unique to affiliate owners. It's not unique to gym owners. It's not unique to even the gym space. It's just that any business that is owned, and this is, I guess, the point of exit strategy, but any business that is owned is a question of distraction versus as a question of traction, right? So, like, does the business know where
mm,
it's trying to get to? And so, if you can save a business owner from their incessant need to react to problems in the business, and you can get them to focus more on where they're trying to get the business to, their intention, you can get a lot done in a short period of time without having to teach them, change them, or pivot them, if that makes sense.
mm,
And so for us, it's essentially just taking the thing that everybody knows to be true in fitness, which is the sickness, fitness, wellness continuum, and repurposing that and reiterating that into the distraction, action, traction continuum. And it's our job as coaches, as consultants for affiliate owners, is to move them from distraction, which would be the equivalent of sickness in life, to what would
mm,
be the equivalent of fitness in business, which is what we consider to be traction, meaning moving towards the identified, agreed upon goal you're trying to get this thing to.
mhm. Um, and that's a powerful shift. And, I've experienced it and I know that clients experience it when we get bogged down in the putting out the fires or, everything that we think needs our attention versus, is this a problem or I'm making it one? And
Mm,
asking ourselves like the series of 5 questions that we actually posted about today, rather than what's the next thing that I can do that's going to move me forward.
mm,
And even when, clients are stuck in some a cycle or a loop or whatever, by asking that, it's like gives one thing to do so you can take that action and then you stop being distracted because you immediately feel like, "Oh, I'm doing the thing that's moving me," rather than running around putting out fires that just never go out. Let's face it,
ever.
ever.
It's kind
There's
of
always going to be fires.
like a fire
You're
hose
always
that's got a flame on it, right? It just keeps,
yeah,
put one on, it lights itself again.
it's pure fuel. But and it's true though. You're always going to have, if we talk about the affiliate, there's always going to be members complaining about something. There's always going to be coaches not doing something that you need them to do. It's never you're gonna have people canceling, you're gonna have people coming, you're gonna have people or people will be peopling. So if you're spending all your time and energy on those particular things that are not going to get better, and I speak with the benefit of hindsight versus accepting what is and going, what can I do to move out of this space? It's a much more powerful shift and more valuable use of your time, energy, and stress levels.
Hmm. So there,
Oh,
there's a lot in there. I guess, kind of going back to the exit strategy thing, and
mm,
with this, I think the resistance to it is most people, like you said, like when they open a business or start a business, the last thing they want to do is ever exit the business or otherwise, right? And so
mm,
I get it, right? And so I think maybe one of the things that's easier here is that we don't pass this through the lens of an affiliate owner. We just talk about business owners in general. Let's
mm.
assume that we're talking about, for whatever reason, bakery always seems to become the favorite one around here.
That's
Let's assume that we're talking about bakery owners, or mechanics, or the other ones, or garage owners, stuff like
mm,
that, that are sort of service based, product based businesses. There will never not be something to focus on. The oven doesn't
mm,
work, flour shipments come in late, labor is sick,
mm,
returns, taxes, you name it, there will always be something to focus on. And for that
mm.
reason, we all likely know probably dozens and dozens and dozens of examples of small business owners in our lives personally, restaurant owners or otherwise, who are a slave to their business, right? For lack of a better word.
mm,
And that they are constantly responding to something, sending an email, chasing down an order,
mm.
fixing something, you know, sh- hiring, firing, you name it, there's always something. And every time you see them, how are you? And then the litany of business issues comes forth, right? And you're like,
Mhm,
if nothing else, you learn like, I don't think I ever want to own a business, right? And then somehow we are all presented with the idea of owning an affiliate, and that seems simple, right? We're like, this thing really
mm.
changed my life. It's not that difficult. Like I could do it. Like I just go open a gym, get a couple of people to work out. They pay me. Like it's going to be
I can work
great.
out all day. It's gonna
Yeah,
be
and
amazing.
and truly, it is that simple. And then you get bored and you get distracted. And then all of a sudden you make it way more complicated. And next thing you know, it's not that simple anymore. Right. And
Mm,
now you're reacting to a whole bunch of things. Now you're sending emails, you're tweaking programming, you're changing programming for every single client, you're addressing this fire and this client. You need a new coach, you got to fire that coach, you got this schedule, your clients want this thing. And then you come up for air, a year or two later, and you're like, all I am doing anymore is basically fixing this business. I'm never actually growing this business. And
mm,
the answer is quite simple and it's almost dismissive, but the answer is very simple. Get it back to boring,
mm,
right? And like in the nature of an exit strategy, that's all we're really saying to do. I'm not telling you that I want you to ever leave this thing, nor am I saying I don't want
mm,
you to pass it off to everybody in your family. What I'm saying is, I want you to get to the point where that's possible. Because here's what's
mm,
not going to happen: no one wants to buy your overly complicated, overly distracted, overly fire saturated small business that only you
mm.
can figure out. What they do want is something that's boring, repeatable, and predictable. And
And I think
go ahead.
yeah, go on. I was gonna say 'cause a lot of it comes down to, you know, and I know we've spoken about this, is the identity that we create as a business owner and, you know, when we talk about, the identity that I guess we assume because it's forced upon us of, hustle, grind, it's meant to be if things are easy, then you're not working hard enough and you gotta be the hardest worker in the room. If and then part of it is ego is like, if this thing is so complicated, then it revolves around me, like, it can't happen without me.
Mm.
And we get wrapped up in all of that as well as these, distraction things, and in reality, we always need an exit strategy because, to be honest, none of us are living forever. That's you don't wanna work in this thing when you're 95 and be still teaching somebody to air squat or arguing about should they RX or not, like, that's we don't want that for anybody. So in reality, you need to have some sort of succession plan moving forward, and what you want for your life. But I think we just get wrapped up in what we think business should be because we see all these other people that are stressed and tired and go, go, go and hustle and earning it versus no, I run this business and it's humming along and I can afford to go to the beach for a week and I don't need to check my phone.
Um, yeah. So one of the things that you touch on in there is a little bit of the nature of um, what it means to be a business owner, right? And part of that is big part of that is an identity of a business owner, and really any business. It's not just unique to affiliates. And I
Mm,
think one thing that we talked about on here before is that like not all affiliates are bad, broken, or burning, right? Most of them are actually quite the opposite, but we just tend to talk about them as if they are, and it's not necessarily meant to be a mark of failure on their parts. It's just that it's our job to protect and preserve them. So there's universal weaknesses across the board, and one of those universal weaknesses across the board is just that if we're going to protect, preserve, and save the affiliate model, it's really pretty simple. What that looks like is getting them back to boring, right? And that
mm,
sounds so bad. I get it, but I think it's important because it is really that simple. The more boring we can
mm,
get affiliates back to, the safer they are, right?
mm,
Because just like fitness, the more complex and crazy your fitness is to build and maintain and predict, the harder it's going to be to develop it. But the more we can make it objective, observable, identifiable, and improvable, the easier it's
mm,
going to be. And there's nothing boring about CrossFit, but the process is pretty predictable. Let's call it
mm,
boring, right? Like, I show up to the gym, I do the workout that's on the board, I do it as hard as I can, and then I do that 5 to 6
mm,
times a week, and my life will change. That's boring.
mm,
I mean, the workouts can be fun, and that's the essence of business too, right? It's not saying that you're not going to be having fun in the business. It's not to say that like there's not going to be milestones and moments and impact, but it means that like how repeatable can we make this thing, and
mm.
how predictable can it be?
And I think that we get a little wrapped up in and, focusing on the fires and the issues because if you come out and if you follow any affiliate owner groups, like people are just talking about their problems, their issues, their dramas, their thing. Whereas, you know, no one is talking about, oh well, I took a 2-week vacation. The business grew by, however many members while I was away, and I didn't have anything to fix when I got back because that immediately makes you an outlier, and people assume that you're not being truthful or doing something, you know, not above board.
Yeah. Um, and inside those groups and inside those conversations, I think is really where we start. And I think I made this post yesterday or the day before, but in regards to
Mm,
identity, particularly, you know, how identities come to exist, and unfortunately, that sort of commiseration, I think, leads to a big chunk of the distraction, right? Where it's like
mm,
if you don't really know where you're trying to get to in business, or what you're trying to achieve for your life from the business, you're going to look around and you're going to try to figure out, what is everybody else doing? Should I
mm,
be doing that? And you're going to distract yourself with it, right? And so the vast majority of the problems that exist inside most businesses are from what we call a conversation of memetics versus ecology, meaning ecological focus or ecological goals are your pursuit of things that will undeniably improve your life, the quality of your life, financially,
mm,
you name it. Um, the problem is that most of us have no idea what we're doing in the business that we're in, and that's really the essence of being an entrepreneur, right? Is to be like,
mm,
oh, what? I don't even know. What am I? How am I going to solve this problem? That's
mm,
supposed to be the fun of the whole thing, right? But in those moments of like, what do I do? What am I supposed to be doing? Like, how do I solve this problem? We have a tendency, because we've been conditioned to do so based on like how we went to school, et
mm,
cetera, is to look around and emulate, right? And so
mm,
we look for examples. And what's great about the affiliate model is that there's 15,000 examples, better or worse. The
mm,
problem is that the affiliate model is designed that all 15,000 should be individual, which means you probably don't necessarily want to look around for that much inspiration, because really what you should be looking for is an effect on your own identity. What makes my affiliate unique? And not to say that there's not value in seeing what other people are doing, because there is. It's just that the vast majority are probably likely complaining about things like kill cliff fit a number of classes, etc. And it's not necessarily a good use for your time, but collectively, people are much louder about their problems than they are their successes. And
mm,
so when you spend a lot of time in those groups, you start to realize, people are always talking about issues, and you probably likely resonate with many of those issues, because like they're not rare, right? They're pretty universal struggles, but those are not a universal affiliate struggles. Like employees are a struggle in every business, right? Sales are a struggle in every business. Like, retention is a struggle in any business. And so, but in any group, they were going to be louder and louder. The difference is that there's a lot of affiliate owners. There's not like, maybe there is, and I don't know about it, but like, there's not, you know, a, a baker's affiliate group, right? Where
mm.
we're all complaining about the same thing. There's
Yeah.
probably some, groups out there for bakers and stuff like that, but like, they're not identifiably the same baker. Like if we were XYZ bakery and there was an XYZ bakery owners group, there's probably going to be pretty universal identities that come out of that. And
Mm,
that's either going to be identity of opportunity or an identity of limitation. And
mm,
one of the things that has come out of this thing is that through the lack of ecology, we've begun to look around more and more and more. And now we've got a lot of business owners looking for ideas as to what they should be pursuing, goals,
mm,
revenue, number of members, etc. And they pursue them, and unfortunately those things, are endless and infinite distractions, right? They're going to inevitably be the same sort of conversation over and over and over again in pursuit
mm,
of the treadmill. And if we can get them back to an ecological goal, which is like, how does your life improve when this thing is complete, then it makes sense.
mm.
But it has to start there.
And I think it's understanding what you want for your and what's possible, because quite often when we talk to affiliate owners and you say, well, how much income do you want to make? And they're like, well, I don't know, just enough to pay the bills. Like they don't have any concept what's possible, and they limit themselves to what they think is reasonable and acceptable, and all those other things. So it's um, you know, they don't dream big, which is one of our things that we try and get our affiliate owners to do. But then it's like, yeah, I want 150 members because that just seems like a good number. But is that the number that legitimately works for you? And you've left me on the screen. There you go. You're on
I'm
mute.
muted here. Um, no, and so getting back on track to what really actually matters in this conversation, right? Like, which
Mm,
is the conversation of distractions versus intention. And
mm,
very nature of all businesses is just going to be distraction, right? Because you're going to look around, you have no idea what you're doing, so you start looking for mimetic goals. You have no
mm,
idea what the pursuit of or the success of that pursuit is going to do for your own life. It's just that, like, I don't know, things are on fire now, so if I solve that, it's going to get better, right?
mm,
So if we can get this back to intention, then the distractions start to slowly get quieter and quieter. And so in keeping with traction here, the post that I made the other day, and so you can just go follow it and go to the Instagram and see it so that you have the diagram of it. It's just the sickness, fitness, wellness continuum. But in this case, it's distraction to traction. And so
mm,
the vast majority of the first half of the arc, just like it is in fitness, is ideally just action. Just start moving, right? Like if I just start moving, I'm probably going to get myself from sick to some degree of well, right? Like
mm,
organic adaptation is going to occur. In business, the same case is going to happen. If I just start doing things, I'm probably going to get into action. The issue is just like fitness, if we don't define what fitness looks like, right, there's no objective pursuit of it, right? And so if we don't define like what your future looks like, there's no objective pursuit of it.
mm. And that's the the kicker, is having that intention. So what do I want it to be? And you're right, not letting all those distractions rein in and filter in, and if what, to quote, Nicole Carroll, recent guest, your North Star is, that's nothing's going to let you deviate from that. You're going to head towards the direction of that, is where you want to be, and you'll take those steps rather than being pulled left, right, or, whichever way.
Well, the distractions are the constant, right? I mean,
Mm,
all you have to do is no one wants to be bored anymore. So back to the whole point of things being easy, right? Like
mm,
the world that we live in today is really pretty simple. It's the absence of boredom, right? Like there's
mm,
nobody's bored. As soon as you get bored, all you got to do is pull this thing out, right? You can
mm,
scroll and doom scroll to your heart's content, right? And while you're doom scrolling, you'll likely come across some ads, and those ads will send you down another rabbit hole, and then down another rabbit hole, and the next thing you know, like 3 hours have gone by, right?
mm,
Boredom just doesn't exist in our world anymore, and I can tell you, it's probably never existed in the business owner world because and even like I will pray for boredom, like give me some boredom, but like as soon as the boredom starts to happen, the ping of the phone comes off or the phone rings and like
mm,
all hell breaks loose. And so in comes the distractions infinitely. And so if we can define what fitness looks like in your business, right? And if we can define where you're trying to get to, and to the point of exit strategy, all really exit strategy means is beginning with the end in mind, right? It's just backward integrated design. Tell me where you want to get to. Let's deconstruct that and let's engineer that. And that's why, we call our seminar the affiliate engineering seminar, which is that's it. It's like, how do we use your affiliate to engineer your future? And the way that we do that is define what your life is going to look like and how the affiliate is going to develop that, right?
mm,
And that is the operative part of the conversation that so few people are having, including like a lot of the other mentors and gurus out there. They're like, we want to make the world's best affiliate, and we hope that upon the completion of helping you build the best affiliate, your life's just going to be better. And it probably
mm,
will be, because no doubt about it, if your affiliate is much better, your life's probably gonna improve to some degree. But
mm,
you might look up and be like, well, my life is better, but it's not exactly the one I wanted. Right? Like I
mm,
got way more clients, way more issues, et cetera, than I want to deal with, like classes, time, money, et cetera. So instead, why don't we ask, what do you want your life to look like? What do
mm,
we want, you know, your future to look like, your family, et cetera? And let's get crystal clear on that. You know, let's detail that
mm,
out. Dollars,
mm,
details, dates, you name it. All the more granular we can make that, the better. Cool. Once we have that, how do we use the affiliate, the business, bakery, affiliate, whatever you want it to be, to make that come true, right? Like,
mm,
how do we get from where we're at to the dollar signs, the dates, the details, et cetera? Is the
mm,
affiliate the right vehicle? Maybe it includes a couple of vehicles. We don't know, right? But we have to be very clear on that. And that is the conversation that starts to move us slowly from distraction to traction, because what we've done is define fitness, right? We've defined that, hey, this is what success looks like for me. Therefore,
mm,
anything that I do that moves me closer to that is good use of my time. Just the same as, hey, we define this is what fitness looks like, work capacity, broad domains. Anything that improves my work capacity is a good use of my time, right? Therefore, I invest in anything that doesn't, I don't. And what you'll notice is that when we start to develop this continuum, when we start to be very detailed on what this future looks like, you're going to find, just like in fitness, that running for 5 hours a day isn't really a good use of my time, right? It's
mm,
exercise, it's training. And maybe I don't do really well in aerobic workouts, but like just signing up to run for 5 hours a day isn't necessarily inherently the best use of my time in terms of increasing my fitness. What is the minimum effective dose? Right. And
mm,
so what you'll find is it's probably much more something like short, higher intensity intervals, hills, sprints, etc. Right?
mm,
Okay, that's much better, much easier, and much more effective. Same with your business, right? If we know this is what success looks like for you, your version of success, your life, etc., two things happen. One, we can measure, is this thing moving you closer to this goal? If yes, pursue. If no, avoid, right?
mm,
If it's moving you closer to that goal and things are getting better, we also know that like your business, no doubt about it, is also getting better. So not only do we
mm,
have your life getting better, first and foremost, but the business gets better as a byproduct.
mm,
Adversely, that rule does not seem to be present. If we just improve the business, you might get lucky and your life gets better. But there's a lot of really successful business owners, if you look around, whose lives are absolute shit.
mm. And
And this
I think
conversation,
it's flipping that paradigm where, most, like you said, gurus, mentors, or whatever in the space, they're focusing on, you know, how do the business, how does your life support the business versus the way we're looking at it is like the business should be a tool that supports your life and your goals and your dreams and your aspirations,
mhm,
not you supporting its goals, dreams, aspirations. Because you're right, there are a lot of very successful business owners that are still, you know, elbows deep in hard stuff every day rather than, well, the business is where I want it to be, but it hasn't given me any more freedom. And our four freedoms at Fitfiliate are, our cornerstone of what we aspire to, with clients is you want to have the freedom to be able to go somewhere for a couple of weeks and everything's not going to burn to the ground and you're not going to be stressed about it. And you can afford to do that rather than going, oh, well, now I've just set the business back 3 months by taking a week off to go, to the games or whatever it is that you do, but it's supporting the things that you want to achieve in life as a person. And that was one of the big kickers that when I first came through the doors, I was like, wow, you care about me, the person, not me, just the business owner, the gym owner.
sure. Yeah, well, and the goal of every business, no matter what it is to improve the quality of life of the owner.
Mm,
Again, though, that never really seems to happen, right? In most small businesses,
Well, I
that
don't
doesn't
think it's
happen.
ever communicated. I don't think it's
Well,
communicated
it's
as
just
much.
not something that I think that many people consider, right? Like
Mm,
they don't they don't really think much about the fact that like, hey, I'm doing this thing to make my life better. They do this thing because they're like, hey, I can do this thing. I'll make some money doing this thing, and I really enjoy doing this thing. I'm going to do this thing, right? And so they set forth
mm,
doing all this things. But in that same conversation, subconsciously and maybe without noticing, they did decide that like my life's going to get better. I'm going to make
mm,
money doing this thing, so I don't have to trade my job, my shitty job that I do for money now. And I really like doing this thing, so I'm going to enjoy my work. Right. So like their life is supposed to be getting better, but what happens? They start out, it was much more difficult than they anticipated. Next thing you know,
mm,
they're like, I don't like this version of this thing at all. This is not
mm,
what I thought was going to happen when I did that napkin math. And so immediately the distractions happen. And so back to the continuum, if you look on the left half of wellness, right, there's organic adaptation. And if you walk
mm,
in, I went to a Globo Gym this morning, so I got to experience it firsthand. It's fresh in my brain. There's a lot of people in there doing organic adaptation.
mm,
Glutes are all the rage. I haven't been to Globo Gym in decades at this point, I think. And I'm on vacation, so I happened to have walked into one this morning, and the number of people who are working on butts these days,
yeah, it's a thing.
that was not a thing 10 years ago. And listen, I'm here for it. I'm happy that you're all doing it. My point is that there's a lot of people in there doing stuff, a lot of stuff. But we
Mm,
know as CrossFitters, what's true about that? They're probably not getting that much fitter, right? Like
mm,
they are, unfortunately for them, likely improving their display model of fitness, right?
mm,
They're going to look really good naked, which is great. That's one big part of fitness, like high
mm,
five. But we know there's much more to it than that. And we know that in order to improve the other stuff, besides like, the look good naked part of it, there's a whole lot of other things that have to happen. And the reason we
mm,
know that is that CrossFit clearly defined fitness, right? It wasn't
mm,
subjective anymore because all those poor people in that gym, their version of fitness is their vision of their own fitness in that mirror. They're watching, am I getting better? Do I look better? Am I
mm,
this? And they're all we already know one thing, it never feels better, right? You never look
mm,
better
mm,
because one of those things. So like they're just in there and they're working. My point is that you can only get so far on the fitness continuum, right?
mm,
Until you start to learn that like, hey, until I define what fitness looks like universally, I'm going to be distracted. And so you can do all the back and buys, chest and tries, hour of cardio that you want, but if you don't know what the end point is, if you don't know what the exit strategy is, so to speak, you don't really know if it's actually improving that or not. And
mm,
so in CrossFit, we know that we get to fitness. And the reason that we do that is there's one other arc of the circle, and that is, you know, the far right side of it. And we'll call that the intention side of it. In CrossFit and in fitness, it's largely the byproduct of the neurological aspects of fitness, right?
mm,
Coordination, ability, et cetera. And the reason for that is that we're one of the few places where people are working on coordination. That's
mm,
it, right? And when we know gymnastics, et cetera, all those things, they're the thing that we need to be working on. The same can be said about your business, right? And so all the help out there, all the advice out there is really no different than your camera just went blurry, so you look like you're witness protection, by the way. I don't know if you know that, but
yeah, I
uh,
can just see that. It'll
as
come
long as
back.
you're not like just gonna start talking weird, you won't necessarily be in witness protection. But
The host
right, so
formerly known as Lisa.
in the fitness world, you know, hopefully all of your clients are getting bombarded on
Mm,
social media, YouTube, et cetera, daily with what? Programs, right? You got
mm,
no shortage of, butts and guts programs, abs, this,
mm,
7 day slim downs, this, blah, blah, blah. Like things to do to get you busy, right? And
mm,
for some people, that might get them off the couch and it gets them a little bit degree of active, but it doesn't, we know what? You can follow them all you want. You're not going to get to fitness. They might
mm,
shore up a couple of places where you don't look good or whatever, but like ultimately fitness is
mm,
not going to be that. The same is true in business. And this is really
mm,
kind of where we come in and where we're different. And that is that the vast majority of people out there are blowing up your inbox with the butts and guts of your business, right? They're trying to sell you the lead gen, they're trying to sell you all these things that'll keep you busy. They're going to
mm,
give you all the things to work on. But until you're very clear on where you're trying to get to, they're all distractions. And once you do become very clear on where you're trying to get to, what that life looks like, that ecology looks like, you're likely going to realize that, like, oh, if I were to win after, let's call it lead gen, because that's a popular one,
mm,
it might not have actually moved me towards my thing, which would have moved me
mm,
actually away from my goal. Oh,
mm,
glad that I avoided that, right? You might likely learn that, like, I don't want 300 clients because that's going to move me away from my goal. I only really need like
mm,
70 clients. Oh, I'm glad I
mm,
avoided that. And so, in order to do that, in order to move onto that far right side to traction, we have to move people out of reaction, meaning responding to, reacting to, replying to, all the things that they do in a day to be busy, and move them into intention. And in order to do that, it's back to the root of it. We have to, one, define what your exit strategy looks like, what your endpoint is, what your goal is. Doesn't mean that I want you out of this thing. It means that I want you to be able to get out of this thing. But
mm,
once you're able to get out of it, I guarantee you, and I know this to be true because we've done it dozens of times, as soon as I can get you out of this thing, you don't want out, right? Because
mm,
once I can get you out of this thing and it's starting to make money and it's easy and it's boring and it's predictable, you're like, well, it's not that hard, right? You can go do anything
mm,
else you want. And that's the secret, right? Like, and we do want you to pass it on for generations and generations and generations because we should. But in order to make that possible, we don't want to have to take like 10 years of your kid's life training them how to develop this thing, right? You just
mm,
get them the keys. Here's the playbook. Go be great and move on. And so all
mm,
that happens by getting you away from reaction and getting you into intention. And as a coach, it's our job regularly to ask you, what are you doing? Why did you do that? That doesn't align with where you're trying to get to. And so, and no doubt about it, our clients come to calls every single week with big ideas, right? They're like, hey, I'm thinking about, and I'm like, seems like an okay idea. Well, how's
mm.
that going to get you close to your goal? They're like, well, oh, I don't know, right?
Yeah.
Oh, where did you come up with this idea? Well, I was talking to another owner and they started doing this thing and it seemed really exciting. I'm like, that does seem very exciting, but probably for their goal. But if this is your goal, your reminder, this is what you told me. How's this playing?
Mm,
Or they're like, no, it doesn't. Right.
mm.
Distraction averted.
Good
And
chat.
and that's really what coaching is, right? For at least for
Mm,
us. It's a constant reminder of your goals. Like, hey, at least this is where you're trying to get to. It's not like, is that going to solve your problem or just create a new one? Right. And
mm,
if somebody can do that for you, just like in fitness, right? That's all it is on the floor too, is systematically removing the distractions from your clients so that they can get back to what matters, which is the development of actual fitness, and then get there much further and much faster. That's it,
mm.
right? But if you don't do that, you already know what happened. Imagine, and this is why I think it's so funny when everybody's like, we're gonna try open gym. Like, do you know what will happen in there? Right? If you left your clients to their own idea of how to get to their fitness, could you imagine what would end up like all I can
Kids
with
in a
the
pantry.
it's been like they did all those like that trend where like everybody was like doing crazy things and like the
Mm,
stop action stuff. Like that's what I imagine it looked like. You come in and like people would have rowers on top of boxes hanging
yeah.
upside down. Like I don't even they would just come up with things and truly as comical as that is the essence of small business ownership. Right? Like we
Mm,
have no idea what we're doing. So we just try doing everything, hoping that it's going to work. But
mm,
then when you find somebody who's successful in small business, this it's very clear.
mm,
They stopped doing things to become successful. And
mm,
truly, had somebody told me in the beginning, the secret to business, honestly, at its core, is your ability to exit. And
mm,
and again, that's not because I want anybody to sell their business or get out of their business, but all the businesses that I've owned, so many of the struggles that happened in the early days were me just trying to respond to things and react to things and do things. But as soon as I said,
mm,
hey, I'm going to prepare this business for sale, everything got very objective. It got very clear and it got very simple.
mm,
Does this improve my ability to sell the business or is it going to make it harder to sell the business? If it's going to make it harder, stop doing it. Makes it easier, pursue it. Right? And what you end up with is a very objective set of skills and tasks that are worth your time and everything else just gets thrown out. And
mm,
it's really very simple because the more sellable your business is, the more valuable it is. And frankly, the only way that you get to a sellable and valuable business is making it really, really boring and
mm.
really, really repeatable.
And the less it revolves around you
Mhm.
to solve all the things. If you're the only one that knows, what the ratio of cleaner to water is in the cleaning bottles. Like, it needs to not revolve around you, because then you can never be achieve any kind of freedom, whether you stay in it or get out of it. It makes it next to, impossible. And I think that's, the power of a coach is, like, we as humans suck at asking ourselves the hard questions, because we seek comfort, not discomfort. And we like to abdicate responsibility, going, well, I tried the thing that Tony did and it didn't work, so Tony must not have any idea what he's doing. Versus when you're actually being coached and someone just asks you that hard question, then holds the space for you to answer it, it's like, oh, and you really have to think about it. I mean, I knew many times I was coming to my coaching call going, "Oh, shit, how am I gonna explain this?" And I knew what the conversation would be, and I went, "How am I gonna get this past?" Like, because I knew that it was something, but deep down I knew it was also something that was just a distraction, and I wasn't being honest with myself in pursuing it. And
Yeah.
we were talking on the Million Dollar Coach podcast this week about coaching is very much like real coaching is, we're like the bumpers on the bowling lane. Like, you might think it's a good idea to throw that ball 5 lanes over because you know you can make that shot. Let's just focus on this lane and we'll stop you doing crazy shit, and you can just send the ball down the middle. And if you get a little off track, we'll help you bounce back. But we're going to tell you how to throw it down the middle, but we're going to keep you on that path you want to get to.
Yeah, I mean, avoidance is the central default human operating system, right? That is
Mm,
just when we say people be peopling, really what we
mm,
mean is they be avoiding, right? Because
mm,
all that's all as humans we're hardwired for avoidance. For example,
mm,
at this point in time, nobody should be dying of like prostate cancer and colon cancer. Period.
mm,
Right? Full stop. The
mm,
early detection and screening processes and systems that are intact for those things are so great at this point.
mm,
We should be able to catch it, check it, and eliminate it almost immediately. However,
mm,
you look at the stats, people still are dying at almost the same rates. Why? Because they don't get screened, right? They
mm,
avoid it, right? They live in the world of like, I'd rather not know until all of a sudden they're like,
mm,
what do you mean I got stage four cancer? And that's a very morbid example, but it's the truth,
mm,
right? And you see this in business all the time. And from a coaching perspective, n- nonstop we hear, hey, no, I don't have much to talk about today. Can we just push the call to next week? And as your
mm,
coach, I'll say, no, you
mm,
can't, because coaching is simply what are you trying to avoid? That's what we're working on. And it's my job
mm,
to find that, because no doubt about it, you don't even realize you're doing it. You are trying to sidestep, skirt, and avoid all sorts of things. And it's my question is the conversation that you're trying to avoid is the first conversation you need to have. And as a coach, all we do is just bring those things forward, not in a conflict or a
mm,
confrontational sense. It's just that, like, hey, so I know you don't really have much to talk about this week, so let's just talk about your goals and what you've been working on, because it seems to be you're a little bit off track and you're a little bit distracted. So how do we get back on track? And then we start to root around, you start to uncover those things.
mm,
But it all comes back to the same thing. The clearer we can get about the end point, the exit strategy, the success, what that looks like to you, the easier it is to
mm,
keep you on track. But if you don't do that, and what ends up happening, the more you avoid, the more you sidestep, what you end up doing is removing or eliminating things from that success, right? You sell them out. You're like, okay, maybe I don't need 10 million. I'll settle for 5 million. What can I give up now? What do
mm,
I have to work on? Okay, that's good. I'll settle for
mm,
5 million. Right? And as a coach, I could be like, do you really want to give up 5 million? Right? Like
mm,
this was a hypothetical example. But and the point of that is that as humans, we will tend to avoid things so that we don't have to confront things or move through things. And that's the beauty of coaching,
mm,
whether it be on the floor in terms of why you're not squatting below parallel, like why are you shorting your reps, right? Why are you
mm.
avoiding these type of workouts? Why do you not show up on run workouts? Why do you not show up on push-up workouts? Why do you not show up? Like, it's my job to notice the things that you're trying to not call attention to more so than
Mm.
the things that jump out at me.
And it's funny, like, we have a process with our clients where they do a weekly check-in, and I'll often say to my clients, "That's really important that you do that for me as your coach, because you tell me things in that you might not actually verbalize or think that you're telling me, and I'll go through it and I go, that's an interesting thing that you've mentioned in there," and they don't think that they're telling me something, and you'll pull it out and go, "Let's talk about this."
Mhm.
Oh, oh, and it's like, "How did you know that?" well, you kind of put it in your check-in. You didn't think I'd see it, but you kind of, and you're telling me things that you think subconsciously that you wouldn't necessarily consciously put out there because you're like, I don't want to be talk about this. It's like, well, let's talk about it now. And it's having that space to go, oh yeah, okay, and be seen. As
Hmm.
humans, we all want to be seen, but on the flip side, we don't want to be seen. We want to. It's why it's easy for people to go, oh, I'm just going to go on this group program and I can sit on a group call with 50 other people and I can say I'm doing this thing and I can pay for this thing, but I'm not actually necessarily doing much of the thing and I can hide and it's great. Versus you and I sitting, in a room together, um,
A virtual
and
one.
a virtual one and having an honest conversation about it. It can be challenging for people and honestly, not for everybody.
Sure. I mean, there's three thoughts of there's three types of thought. There's obviously thinking, there's writing, and there's speaking, and they're all very different. The things that you will
Mm,
think about are very different than things that you will write out. Right? This is why the
mm,
process of journaling is so valuable in terms of becoming introspective. Is that the simple act of putting to words your subconscious and conscious thoughts is incredibly valuable and informative. The next layer of that is verbalizing it, right?
mm,
An effective sort of mitigation practice in things like anxiety is literally just go to the mirror and say whatever you're freaking out about, say it out loud to yourself. That almost instantly, in many cases, will get you to be like, well, when I say it, it doesn't sound right. Because, like, what you think and what you write and what you speak are very different. And so, the very process of I'm thinking about this problem. The whole world's on fire. I write it in my check-in, willing to do that. Then you show up to the call and you're like, I don't want to talk about it because I don't want to put it into words because it's probably not anything that I was writing about and it's definitely not anything that I was thinking about. And so
mm,
even if I didn't even bring it up, you working from thought to write to speak changes almost the entire narrative. And
mm,
no doubt about it though, you will put things in there where you're just like, oh, yeah, I don't know how to talk about this thing. And that is
mm,
incredibly valuable. It's a big part of the process is getting you guys to take your thoughts, put them on paper and send them out and then let us talk about them so that we can
mm.
solve them. Because otherwise, you just won't do it. And that's one of
Yeah.
the reasons that's how you guys end up staying in the distraction sort of treadmill is
Mm,
that there is no from thought to traction action.
mm. And that's the powerful impact of a coach and the powerful impact it can have. And just reminding you, it's that little, like, sometimes with the angel on the shoulder, sometimes with the devil on the shoulder, but it's reminding you of, well, this is what you want. Do your actions and intentions align? And having someone who will keep you accountable to you. Because when you're the one sitting on the line, you're like, I don't have to report anything to anybody. No one needs to know anything. Whereas
Mhm.
when you've got that, like you said in the post today, you've now got by having a coach, you've got a CEO in your company who, is going to ask you the questions, not to say, well, you didn't do your job properly, but it's like, why is that a struggle for you? Or why
Mhm.
did you struggle to do that? And I think that's the power. And, as we start to get to the end of this, it's an exit strategy, looking at it from starting with the end in mind and reverse engineering, you know, how you're going to get there, because then you know where you're going. It's super, super powerful, and having that coach to walk alongside you to, keep you in the lanes that you want to head down. We're not going to say, like we've said before, like if you want to sell ice cream in your affiliate, great, go for it. But are those actions and intentions aligning with what you say you want to do? We're not going to tell you it's right or wrong, your dream is right or wrong, but we're going to keep you in the lanes to help you stay focused on where you said that you wanted to be.
Mhm.
And you might get halfway down that journey, go, actually, ice cream's not really the right way to go. Cool, good, let's readjust. Like it's okay, but at least we started with a point in mind.
I mean, the bottom line, business aside, there's likely hundreds of people inside your affiliate. If not, there might be someday. And those hundreds
Mm,
of people rely on the consistency of that affiliate and the constant that is that affiliate in their life. And what it means to preserve and protect that space for them means to protect and preserve the affiliate. And in order to do that, we have to make it as boring as possible so that it is repeatable and predictable as possible. So that when you do get sick or when you do need to take a vacation or when you're just having a bad day or you're burnt out or otherwise, it's so much easier for someone to step in and take the place, right? It's so much easier for you to pass the buck. It's so much easier for you to be able to do those things that you need to do for you. Otherwise, you're not. And the whole thing is in jeopardy because then when you're having a bad day, you're going to say bad things. Or when, you're upset with this or you want to burn the whole thing down, you're going to burn the whole thing down. The more boring we can
Mm,
make it, the easier it is to maintain it.
yep. It's as easy as that. Be boring. It's a good thing.
Be
And
boring.
start with the end in mind. All right, good sir. Another good chat in the books. Thank you. I appreciate these conversations, and I know that our listeners and viewers do as well. So I'll see you on the next one.
See you then.